A devastating climate change report was released last Friday, Black Friday. Perfect timing for a bad news dump. And that's exactly what happened, as the 1,600-page report warns of further devastating consequences unless we immediately curb human contributions to climate change.
For sure, the report got picked up by the mainstream press.
Severe storms are the new norm, according to an alarming government report out today.
But over on the Trump-friendly Fox network, there was barely a mention.
Fox only mentioned the report once on television on Friday.
Since taking office, President Trump has repeatedly expressed his doubts over climate change.
You'd have to show me the scientists because they have a very big political agenda.
And he recently tweeted, "Brutal and extended cold blasts could shatter all records, whatever happened to global warming." President Trump's claims about climate science have breathed new life into a once-dead debate, as several news programs have once again started hosting doubters, including NBC's Meet the Press.
I'm not a scientist. I look at this as a citizen. We need to also recognize that we just had two of the coldest years, the biggest drop in global temperatures that we've had since the 1980s.
Meet the Press got plenty of pushback, including from Esquire's Jack Holmes, who wrote, "Meet the Press is still playing host to people who are paid to spread false information." But NBC was not alone.
We think we've wasted too much money on this already. Cold weather kills more people than warm weather does. So on net, more people would benefit in a warmer climate.
You can file that under circular logic.
That is just stunning. But what's interesting is the LA Times and a bunch of other newspapers years ago, probably 10 years ago, said they were going to stop doing letters to the editors that included, both sides of the climate debate. A lot of these talk shows had said that debate is over, it's done, it's been put to rest. And now, the nuanced version of this is it anthropomorphic? That's the question they're asking. Is man contributing to it? Because a lot of these people are coming on these shows and saying, oh, yeah, we believe there's climate change, but they're saying it's the natural order of things.
I think it's the false objectivity thing that Dan mentioned just a moment ago. It's the media trying to protect themselves against charges of bias. But here's the thing. If a tree falls on your house, you can debate why it fell on your house. Did the wind blow it down? But you can't deny the existence of wind. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. They can debate whether humans are contributing to climate change, but when it goes beyond that into climate change isn't real, facts don't stop being real just because you disagree with them.
No, that's right. And, ultimately the problem here is that in all too many cases, the press covers everything as a political story. Mm-hmm. And so they're covering climate change as a political story, not as a science story. And we thought we had, as you said, we thought we had put this behind us a few years ago, and now we have a president who openly denies that climate change is a reality. And when you have that, it has to be covered. When you have the president saying this stuff, you can't ignore it. But to go back to the bad old days of turning it into a debate when there really is no debate, that doesn't serve anybody.
Well, I would add to that the political journalists, the political anchors, are not really equipped with the facts to refute in real time climate change the way they are. Like if someone came on Meet the Press and said something about the Mueller probe, you would bet that the Chuck Todd would be all over it and would have the in real time objection, like, "Whoa, don't you mean, or isn't it?" Mm-hmm. When people come out with the old climate stuff, I think the facts aren't as ready and the refutations aren't as ready with these anchors, and so things get on the air, and then all of the networks got criticized for letting people that last Sunday just kind of spout on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to add to Dan's point about the fact that we have a president who is a denier of these things, and so you have to cover it. But it's not just the president. You have former presidential candidates. You have well-known scientists who are also taking this position. These are experts where it's difficult, even though you know what they're saying is wrong, they do have a very loud voice and a big platform, and it's very difficult for you to ignore that. It would be much easier if the people who are denying this were someone out in the middle of nowhere with no real, education or anything that gave them credibility. But that's not the case. You go through all the people who were on those shows. Those are well-known individuals who everyone would sort of sit back and say they're smart. We can't just say they're crazy and we can't interview them. And I think that's the biggest problem. It's the caliber of people who we have who are speaking against this.
You also have viewers and readers who don't know the difference between weather and climate.
Yeah.
The
president doesn't.
The president doesn't either, but the people who are consuming this information, who are watching these shows, see an expert, even one that prefaces her statements with, well, I'm not a scientist, you're still an expert enough to be on this show, telling them something that they can relate to. Yeah, I was cold last winter. Right. And they don't understand the science that goes on behind it to know that that cold last winter is different from humans accelerating change.
The more people are going to die from the cold, so this is a
better.
Right.
And very few people on those Sunday shows, if any, last Sunday were actually scientists. Wouldn't that have been novel to have a scientist on the show?
Oh, they're all paid. There were some scientists on.